video of Majority 6440. I'm Sophie. I go to Boston College, but I live here most of the time. I'm from Baldwin, is my municipality, and my favorite thing about St. Louis is all of the free theater.
I'm Katie. I go to Lafayette High School in Wildwood, Missouri. And my favorite part about St. Louis is just the community, how much we're all just so identify as St. Louis.
Hi, my name's Claire. I'm currently driving, so that's why I'm not looking at the camera. But I go to the University of Chicago. I'm originally from right on the divide between Baldwin and Manchester, but we put down Baldwin. And my favorite thing about St. Louis is going to Breadco and getting bread sliced bagels and having people not think it's weird.
Shout out to people who think it's weird. Y'all are just wrong and should visit our city and try some bread sliced bagels.
Facts.
But a little bit about where this came from, not printers. A little bit about where this came from is, so there's a local news show called Donnybrook that happens. I want to say it's pretty unique to St. Louis, but I want to say anything good is pretty unique to St. Louis. So who knows if that's accurate. Anyway, it's a bunch of people who get around, they talk about what's going on in specifically St. Louis for about half an hour. And there's not a lot of young people on the show. There's not any. You know what? We love St. Louis. We play Gloria like 90% of the time driving home. So that was where the idea came from. And we were like, why don't we just talk about it on our drive home? So that's thanks Donnybrook, I guess, for doing something here.
Yeah, and with Donnybrook, we, with Civitas, did a Civitalks version of Donnybrook, and one of the questions that got cut when we were doing it is, can you still identify as being from St. Louis if you live in the county? And I actually feel very passionate about this. I'm sad it got cut, and like you guys do too, because you guys are not here for the majority of the time. Mm-hmm. So you want to be like, oh, I'm from St. Louis, and not have to worry about the difference between the county and the city. Why don't you guys go into that?
So, disclaimer, we're all from the county.
Yes, I'm from Wildwood and the Baldwins.
Yeah. So, that plays a major role, but I go to Boston, so it's a little bit of a different thing, whereas if you introduce yourself and you're like, I'm from Baldwin, they're like, what?
Where is that?
If you say I'm from St. Louis, I want to say 25 to 50% of the time, you'll get, oh, you say I'm from Missouri, and they're like, under Mexico?
Dang!
No, part of the United States of America. So I think personally that if you're from St. Louis County, which does not include St. Charles or Wentzville, you should be able to say you're from the city, because I think most of us will, if we're not working in the city now, we'll end up working in the city.
Yeah. And also, like, what was it? Gabe wanted to be, who was one of our coworkers, he was trying to be like, well, it divided for a reason. And like the county kind of like almost munches off of the city a bit, so you should say you're from the St. Louis area or St. Louis County. But like, why? Like, to be honest, and whenever I go out of town or like outside and I ask people where they're from, what I've noticed is they usually stay their state. And I would never say I'm from Missouri.
No, never.
Ever. I say I'm from St. Louis, and I don't see a problem with that. And also, I think it's the culture. If you're, like where I'm from, a lot of people in Wildwood aren't really St. Louis citizens, like, to be honest. Like, they don't really, like, when I say, what do you know about St. Louis City, they say, like, the Arch. And, like, there's so much more to that. So I think there's, like, as long as you are true to being a St. Louisan, I say, yeah, you can identify as being from St. Louis.
Yeah, so for me, being in Chicago, it's actually really fun to claim St. Louis, because got a lot of Cubs fans, White Sox fans, and they just get annoyed when you say you're from St. Louis. So I pretty much, everyone who knows me on UChicago's campus knows that I am from St. Louis, because I've said it more than once in front of all those people. But I personally like to claim St. Louis, even though I'm from the county, because I think claiming St. Louis is about claiming an entire culture. And St. Louis culture is, you know, Cardinals baseball, Tedger's ice cream, bread sliced bagels, all these things that make St. Louis, like going to the Arch, even though the Arch is in the city. I've been to the Arch plenty of times. So yeah, I definitely think it's okay to claim St. Louis, even if you're from the county. But also, like, if I say I'm from St. Louis County, people are like, oh, is that different? And then I have to explain the difference between the city and the county and all that stuff. And it's just a lot easier to say I'm from St. Louis. People are like, cool.
And some of it is, I think everybody in this car takes responsibility for what would be considered the parts of St. Louis. We're all very tuned in to local politics. We're all tuned into the immense racism that our city faces. I think all of us here have different ideas or similar ideas on how to solve it. We know about the crime issue. We've grown up. And so the thing is, we've spent 18 years living, it's a St. Louisism to say that everything's 20 minutes away. So the city's 20 minutes away, the county's 20 minutes away, wherever you want to go, 20 minutes. But we really have. We're 20 minutes away from the city with no traffic. And when you're that close, you're not divorced from it. The city's problems are our problems. The county problems are the city's problem. We all suffer from education. We all suffer from racism. So if we take part in the city's problems, then we're also a part of the city.
I agree 100%. Well said.
So next up, we'll edit that out, maybe.
Okay. Claire came over for no freaking reason.
Claire's an excellent driver.
Good thing
She
I
got
don't
a
have road
96 on her driver's test.
72?
That's
So we're
76.
just editing out all of this, so it doesn't matter.
Well, probably, but you never know. So our next topic, we did some little intro. Here's our strict beliefs about St. Louis. And now, from a St. Louis perspective, let's talk about the 20 or so presidential candidates. We got debates coming up next week.
Yup.
Who is your favorite? Who do you want to see drop out tomorrow? And some whys on those. Let's start with our driver.
Yeah.
Yang Gang needs to kick it to the curb.
Ooh.
I'm not on that bandwagon.
Ooh.
My personal favorite would, of course, be the incomparable Bernie Sanders, U Chicago alumni, of course, I have to support. But if I had to pick someone who I think is going to win, I don't think Bernie will be able to gain the support base that he needs to win the Democratic primary. Unfortunately, I think it'll be Joe Biden because, one, he's white, and two, he's a male. And I think, especially after Donald Trump, we're not ready for a female president yet, and we're not ready for a non-white president, as unfortunate as that is. So yeah, I want Bernie Sanders, but I really do think that Joe Biden will win the Democratic primary.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Bernie's gonna be a second, but a second by like 10% less of the votes. And with the Democratic primary, like with super delegates, Bernie's not gonna win over the Democratic Party at all. Biden has been in the Democratic Party like hot seat for a long time, and like with Obama like era under his belt, there's no way he's not gonna win. But like if there's someone that I personally want to get out, I love Beto. I just think he's gotta go. I love the dude as a person. I just think he's not gonna get more than 7% of the votes.
I think if you couldn't win Texas, he's not gonna win.
He's not gonna win over the rest of the country.
Beto, I love you, but
Beto, me too, but bow out, dude. I think the majority.
Claire, that's me.
Oh, I think even though I like an idea of an underdog Democratic candidate, I don't think they're gonna win, and I think they're complicating the situation. So I think if you're not Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Biden, who else is like
Buttigieg, unfortunately.
maybe like if you're not them, if you're not hitting that like 10%, like 7%, you need to drop out, to be honest.
So I like
Unless you're Marianne Williamson.
add some comments in our
Then
lives.
stay please stay the entire time.
I, like everyone else in this car, am a big old Bernie fan. He was actually the first candidate that I ever phone banked for. So that's an interesting fact. And the people who phone banked for him were the coolest people I ever know. One guy's first campaign was JFK, and now he was campaigning for Bernie. So I thought that was cool. Candidate I want to drop out, Mayor Pete, please.
Dude, please.
Let your husband run instead. Chasten is a gem. You are an ambitious snake. Which is, it's not a bad thing, but you're trying to run a country and you have a massive homelessness problem in South Bend. You have a massive racial problem in South Bend, and not that everything that happens with Mayor Pete is Mayor Pete's fault. I think he's a part-time mayor, so there's only so many resources he has, there's only so much time he can dedicate to it, but there's a reason you're a mayor and not the president of the United States.
Yeah.
So that's my wish list for winning and dropping out. Beto, obviously, but
Yeah.
that's fine.
I agree, Pete should drop.
Granted, I am proud of all of the people who admitted that they want to run and are willingly putting themselves in this like fight to the death basically for over a year before the election even happens. I think it takes some real courage to be able to do that, and it's a lot of money and a lot of effort, so props to anyone who joined the race and joined the fight at any point throughout the campaign.
I think everyone's doing a wonderful job of bringing up ideas, and we have a real good chance of coming up with great ideas that hopefully actually get implemented if we win. But we have to win, and that's the problem.
Thoughts on the Castro versus Beto? Who do you think was right? Who do you think was wrong? Who do you think?
Because intellectual property from Civitas is not respected, I'm gonna steal an idea that I think Castro's a bully. I think Beto does well on one-on-ones. I think he's trying. I know it's not necessarily difficult to appear better than Ted Cruz, but it is difficult to convince Texas that you're better than Ted Cruz. And he came pretty close. He's pretty comparable to my favorite ever political candidate, Jason Kander, shout out. So maybe that's why I like Beto so much, but I would go Team Beto every day.
I think Castro definitely had a better debate than
That's facts.
Beto did, but when it comes to this man's website and his literature, Castro needs to hire someone else, because he does not.
Damn.
Whoever's doing it, if it's him or whatever, his social media presence, like, it is just not aesthetically pleasing, and in order to get people even interested in reading about the name behind the sign or behind the poster, it needs to be aesthetically pleasing, and I don't think he has done a great job. It's gotten better, but definitely at the start of his campaign, no. And especially because Americans are xenophobic and his last name is Castro.
Yeah, I was just about to say, he already had like the worst start of just having the last name Castro.
Yeah.
But I do like what he's saying, and I did like his policies on it. I think I agreed with him more, but I agree with what you say where he was just being a bully. Like, I do agree with that. But, and also I think he was being a little radical. I think he was being a little like I don't think he realized that it wouldn't work. Like, what he wanted would not happen in real life in this country.
And the difficulty with candidates like Bernie and Elizabeth Warren running is that you have some real leftist candidates.
Yes.
And then when you got Castro coming in here, everyone's like, listen, if I wanted this, I would be voting for Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders.
Exactly. That's why the underdogs, I think, at this point, like, what are you really... Like, if I agree. Like, if I wanted Castro, I would just vote Bernie Sanders, I guess. Same with Yang.
Yeah, Yang, drop out.
Yang needs to go.
I'm so in a really idealist world. Yang would be dope as hell with his little scarf.
How much money does he want to give each family?
10,000.
All right, Yang gang.
I
When
believe-
it's not a critical election, run again. When it is a critical election like 2020,
Yeah.
please don't do this to us again.
Wait till like America crumbles and you're like the new revolution leader or something.
But real quick, I want to talk about Biden again because
Yes.
we all, I think, agree that he's probably going to be the likely frontrunner. How are we feeling about that? I mean, Biden has some real sketchy history with both segregationists and sexual harassment.
My aunt, her coworker's friend works for like some top secret CIA thing. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I'm gonna say it anyway. And she met Biden, and he actually gave her a massage. And I know you had a creepy experience with Biden too. Like, it's just like, it's not just like occasionally. This is stuff he does consistently.
I mean, I don't know if it was creepy. It was just not normal the way he shook my hand.
Like
at Jason Kander's rally, actually.
We loved it.
But yeah, it was just like it was oddly touchy for being he was the current vice president at the time too. And it was oddly touchy for like reaching into the crowd and grabbing I think what we were like 16
Yeah.
girl's hand and just shaking it in a really
Yeah.
Conspiracy theory music. How much do we think that Biden, I mean, obviously Obama picked Biden for more than just, becoming the next president, but Biden balanced the ticket really well, but we also know that vice presidents typically do go on to run, and how much of Biden taking that job was the fact that he knew that working with Obama, who was so charismatic,
would
True.
be
would clean up his record.
Oh, dude, I didn't even think about that. That's so true.
Because it has. And also we have a president now who's been accused of sexual assault how many times and is still president, so I feel like Biden's sexual harassment isn't...
If we can have Donald J. Trump, who's allegedly had sex with, like, children, like, literal, like, toddler, okay, that's a lie, exaggeration, but young teenagers, then we can have someone who just creepily massages people. Like, not happily, but we can.
Yeah, so would everybody here vote for Biden if he won the nomination?
I would have to. You know what I mean? Just because I cannot vote for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's going to be the Republican ticket. And also, if I vote, like, third party, my vote won't do anything. Like, I'm not... Like, don't get me wrong. If you want to vote third party and give your good American vote to do that, go ahead. I just don't want to do that, personally.
All right, so last thought wrap-ups on anything we talked today. We can go in a circle.
Claire?
Driver, want to start?
We didn't necessarily talk about this today, but I saw a cop car, and it reminded me that I need to check my tags on my license plates.
Yes.
PSA, I was pulled over yesterday because my
Me too.
license plate... Did we really get pulled over on the same day?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. That's why Claire drives. But check your tags because I got pulled over yesterday in Maplewood. And there also a story was just run about how people are literally driving on like years old tags. So the police are really looking for that now.
Yeah. I was pulled over in Chesterfield, and luckily I just got a warning, like no ticket or anything. But yeah, check your tags, make sure your car is safe, and don't text while driving, or actually, like, she won't be recording this ever if she's driving. The driver will always be focused on the road, so just a little warning.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in for the inaugural episode of Majority 6440, which we never explained the name, but it's a knockoff of Jason Kennedy's Majority 54. And then there's a highway in St. Louis that is called 40 by locals. If you live outside of St. Louis, it's called 64.
True.
So a lot of signs have 6440, and when we were gonna name it, we thought Majority 6440 worked pretty well.
Yeah.